a couple of pieces of audio that I want to get to here in regards to Bijan Robinson. I will say this about Bijan Robinson last year. I know Arthur Smith was fired fired as the Falcons head coach and play caller, and a lot of it was due to his unorthodox beliefs about using some of his elite star talents as decoys on offense. I know the fantasy world were very upset with this, so that they kept pointing out. But I would say Bijan, despite that, Bijan still was very productive last year. Bijan Robinson finished with 976 rushing yards, and gained at least 4.6 yards per carry. So had 4 touchdowns. He caught 58 passes, 487 yards.
Yeah. No,
and 4 receiving touchdowns. He actually was a lot more productive than people were people were acting like he wasn't productive at all as a result of Arthur Smith. Now, Arthur Smith, he probably could have easily gotten over 1,000 yards. Yeah. And probably could have gotten 1,500 total yards. But, honestly, he said he was still really productive.
No. And this is why, because I talked to fantasy people and you saw it, you saw what he did with limited touches and limited opportunities and how well he played in those. That he was not being the feature back, and you saw Algiers getting many of those carries, and you saw how much it was split, that he was getting the lesser end of a lot of this, and he was still dominating when he was in the game, and that's why I think people were not saying he wasn't ever productive, but he was just, man, could you imagine what he could do if you actually used him?
Yeah, but you guys are talking about giving this is fantasy.
It's fantasy thing, yeah.
People. But you're talking about the usage and the load on running backs. Literally, we've had the discussion about the shelf life of running backs and how you can run them into the ground if you're using them too much, and they need to have a backfield that has someone to help you shoulder that burden of the usage. We've talked about this, and I think that's where Arthur Smith was going with that. No, he's a young running back. I don't want to overburden him just yet. This is not the time to just run him into the ground. And by the time we're trying to re-sign him to a deal for a second deal, he's no longer he's Ezekiel Elliott, because you ran him into the ground and he's done. We're not trying to do that. So I think that was part of the thought process. Fantasy football people, all they care about is, hey, I need to win my league, and I drafted that dude real high, and I need him to get more yards, and I can get more points. And it's like, well, that's not the world we're living in. We're living in a world where we have to consider that these guys, that there's a physical toll, especially in a 17-game season, trying to make the playoffs, going to be even more games. I mean, and running back, there's no position that deals with wear and tear and gets hit by 300-pounders as much as the running back position does.
No, I think
that's more what it was about. But I'm not saying I'm not trust me. I'm not taking it for Smith. But I'm just saying I think that's probably what it was part of.
Then you pull him out somewhere and you play him in the red zone more, and you play him in crucial situations more, and you use him to win games more. That was a problem. It's like, again, and if fantasy wise is why I know those numbers weren't right, is because you'd see it in fantasy wise they weren't right. But on the flip of that, when you go and look into it, you go, no, but he's not using him in a lot of situations where he should, and he would have him on the field and then use him to block or not, or send him out on a decoy route or whatever he would do. That was, I don't think he didn't use him at all, but it was when you saw how good he could be, it gives you more hope for the future. But yeah, I still think he was underused, but he gets underused.
No, I'm not saying that he wasn't. I'm just saying I don't know if people are considering that that's part of the equation too.
Yeah.
In the fantasy world, I don't know if they consider that enough. But yeah, no, listen, I do believe they are going to put more in this play. As a matter of fact, this is the sound that we have of Raheem Morris. We have the sound of Raheem Morris, the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons now, and he is.
Actually, I think do we have Bijan sound or we have Raheem Morris sound? Sorry, let me make sure I have the right thing.
We have there's Raheem Morris and there's Bijan. But if you have the Bijan sound, we can play the Bijan sound. That's fine too.
I have the right one up there. Okay. I had the Raheem Morris sound. We're ready to go.
You got it? Okay. Yes. Go ahead. Let's play the Raheem Morris sound. Here you go.
We saw last year in his rookie season, Bijan line up all over the field, line up wide, and he has said that he expects to be more of a running back who does other things this year, and I think Zach has concurred with that. How, when you have a guy who can be that dynamic and do that many things, how difficult a decision is it to maybe more fine-tune his role this year?
In the simplest form as you can possibly make it is get the ball to Bijan as much as you can in as many ideal situations that you possibly can. For him, he's so talented. You don't want to limit the things that he can do, but you also don't want to water it down so much that he's not doing anything that he can do great, right? When you get the ball in his hand, he makes people miss. He gets extra yards. He's able to fight for extra yards. He breaks tackles. He's fast. He's explosive. He's strong. He can do so many things. You can get overwhelmed sometime, maybe as a play caller or even as a designer. But for him, I really think he enjoys the whole process. I think he compared himself to that Christian McCaffrey role. And if we can get anywhere near the great player that Christian McCaffrey is, I think we'll all be pretty excited.
Did that make you nervous at all to hear him say that?
No, I'm never going to take away a guy's confidence. It's something about that youthful arrogance, man, that just excites me. So I absolutely love that.
All right, there you go. That's Raheem Morris talking about how they're going to use Bijan. So yeah, he's implying, no, man, we're about to load him up. So fantasy people are, they're salivating right now. And here's sound of Bijan also talking about what, how he's going to be used and his new role coming up in this offense now after obviously the post Arthur Smith group, but this is still going to be an offense that can weaponize Bijan Robinson. Here's Bijan talking about his role with the Falcons this season.
I'm going to be more of a runner that does everything else. Like not as much, but I don't know what the plan is, but like it's like run first, like I did in college, and then, still having that access to go to receivers, still having access to do creative things out the backfield. More so like, like how they use Christian down there in San Francisco, like something like that. So that's kind of what like the plan is here.
All right, like I say, casually throughout there. So that's why people are excited. And so to Patrick's point, I'll throw this out there because like I said, Bijan, he had 300 combined carries and targets last season. So touches, 9th most of any running back in the NFL. But if you go look at it, he was just 25th in touches per game. So it's kind of the deep dive analytics the fantasy people are getting into. He got 12 carries from inside the 10-yard line. That's why fantasy people are also upset because they want to be scoring touchdowns. He's not getting enough points. If you go look at it, this is why people said Arthur Smith was not necessarily weaponizing him. Although he was 31st in opportunity share, he was 32nd in red zone touches, 19th overall in carries. But he's 5th in yards created, 7th in evaded tackles, and 9th in yards per touch, 5.4 yards per touch. And if you take it to receiving metrics, he also ranked 4th in receiving yards and 6th in receptions, I believe, among running backs. So but you go look at it, advanced receiving metrics, 1st in routes run, 2nd in route participation, that was at 72%, 3rd in target share, and 8th in yards per reception. So, I mean, like I said, I understand. I think the argument would be they basically want Bijan to be used more in the red zone. I think it's the argument for a lot of fans because they don't think he was targeted enough or got enough touches or weaponized enough in the red zone. But like I said, I think Arthur Smith was leading up to that. I really do. I think he didn't get enough time to do it. They got to win games while they do it. But I do think he was getting to that. He did not necessarily ignore Bijan, but he wanted, I think, to use him at times as a decoy because he knew teams were going to game plan around him. And that's not what fantasy people want. And honestly, it's probably not what the Atlanta Falcons want. So Raheem Morris is telling you, no, we getting Bijan the ball early and often in a lot of different ways. And it's basically kind of the Sean McVay kind of Shanahan system that they're bringing in as well. So there'll be opportunities for him in the running game. Certainly, they're going to be running that zone blocking scheme, the Shanahan zone scheme. They also run more power concepts than the Shanahan do too, and that's something that Bijan's used to because at Texas they ran power concepts, they ran duo at Texas. Those are concepts. So you could argue there wasn't enough versatility in the run game for the Falcons either. By the way, the Falcons' offensive line is pretty damn good, and Zach Robinson, I believe, is the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. So, like I said, coming from that Shanahan system. All right, there you go. So that's some NFL